Okay. Back to this, the correct day at the correct time. It is Unfound Live for January 6th, 2021, the first live show of 2021. I hope everybody is doing well. It was a beautiful day here. We've had a few beautiful days here in Florida. And I hope that continues because I have a disc golf tournament down in Estero, Florida, Estero, this weekend. And I'll be driving down there Friday to play Saturday and Sunday. But I should be back in plenty of time for the think tank. I want to remind all of you that as you're watching this live show tonight, please hit the like button, the thumbs up, and because that helps us with the YouTube algorithms. Please do not forget to do that. Jill, thank you very much. Jill gets in as the first super chat contributor of 2021. And thank you, Jill. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. And the super chat is that little square, gray square with a $sign in it. If you would like to contribute to Unfound as you are watching tonight, if you are a regular viewer of this program, then you have seen people use the super chat function quite often. So let's see who's in here, and then we'll get into some of the stuff a little bit. What's going on? A little bit is first. Joyce Rivatuzo. Hello, Peter. Karen. Nikki. Delane. Suzanne. Laura. Concha. Jasmine. Kathy. Eileen. Satin B. Susan. Laura. Carrie. Cherie. Ruth. Jill. Kim. Good. And a little bit saying I got kicked out. I don't think you got kicked out. Hello, Melissa. Good to see you. Yes, first of all, I told, and he is in here, I know that I wanted to give a shout out to Peter, who is a longtime listener of the program, and he had sent me a message, was it yesterday or the day before, telling me how he was going back through some of the old episodes of Unfound, going back to 2016, 2017. And he was telling me that he was listening to them as he was making his rounds at a security guard at, I'm not going to name what zoo it is, but at a zoo in the United States. So he's a security officer there, and he listens to the podcast while he is protecting the animals. And that's a very noble thing that you're doing, Peter. So I want to give a shout out to you. I love to hear about how people listen to Unfound, what they're doing, where they are going. Do they listen in their car? I know I've been told by some people that they listen before they go to bed at night. They'll be in bed and it's playing. I guess some people listen to it when they go to the gym. And some people listen to it when they're in the car with their kids. And that's one of the reasons that Unfound is PG rated. So, Peter, thank you for the work that you're doing, protecting the animals. And thank you for letting me know how you listen to the program. I'm sure that's a very unique way in which you're listening to it. I don't know how many zoo security guards we have listening to the program. That's a spectacular story. So, Peter, shout out to you. Thank you for letting me know. Tree says, hello from Mount Shasta, California. I don't know if I've been there or not, Tree. Sarah with the heart. Kim, she makes pet collars while listening. That's cool. Hello, LaFord. How are you? But as you can see, I am back to the regular Unfound headquarters of Clearwater Beach, Florida. I did a New Year's Eve show from Pennsylvania. My father last Tuesday decided that he had had enough of Florida, or maybe had had enough of me, and decided he wanted to go home. So I was happy to oblige him. So on the first thing on Wednesday morning, December 30th, we jumped in his Jeep. We left here at about 7 in the morning. We got there at about midnight. And then I stayed there for all day Thursday. And then I did that live show at 7 o'clock on New Year's Eve. And then I flew back Friday. And I'm not going to go into all the particulars. Many of you who are friends with me on Facebook know that I made a video that is on the Unfound Podcast Channel, but it is unlisted because it has nothing to do with any disappearances or anything. But I diagrammed the lift ride that I got on Friday evening from the Tampa airport back to where I live here in Clearwater Beach. And it was a doozy. I was fearful in a variety of ways on the way home, from how this guy was driving, to the car obviously not running correctly, to him not going the proper directions, missing turns. All of it put together was a little bit of a nightmare. And, I know many of you do not know me personally. I am a fairly understanding guy. Even if, for example, even if I go to a restaurant and, the waitress is not, or waiter is not maybe doing an A+ job, I still tip well. Things have to be really, 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 really bad for me to not tip properly. And I can't remember the last time that I really shorted somebody, what you would say did not tip well because of circumstances. It's just not me. I just don't, I don't know. But this was bad enough that when I was done, and when I got home, I actually went on to the Lyft app and gave this driver a 1-star review. He got no tip, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was that bad. And it ended up that I did get some money back from that trip. I still don't know. There is still a part of me, I have to admit. I mean, the car was certainly bad. But the rest of it, I'm still wondering if this guy was pulling some sort of, I don't know. I just don't know. I started to wonder, am I getting scammed? It was certainly a Lyft driver, but it was like a 2011 Equinox. I'm usually thinking that Lyft drivers have really, really a lot newer cars, maybe 2016, 2017. So that was weird. And then he kept missing these turns that were right there. The app was telling him where to go and he wasn't going there. There is a part of me that is still wondering, did I get, was this guy trying to scam me in some way? Did he think that I didn't know where we were supposed to be going? Did he think I was some sort of tourist or something? There is still part of me that is wondering that. And, his app was speaking in Spanish and he was speaking to me in English. And I just don't know. There was part of me that wonders, was he putting on a show or something? Was he trying to make the ride longer so he would get paid more? There's still that going through my mind, because if you don't know, and I talked about this in the video that I actually made that I linked to, I can remember back when I lived in Las Vegas, that was a very popular thing for taxi drivers to do. That instead of taking the direct route from the Las Vegas airport to a hotel, they'd go the long way around, and a tourist who had never been to Vegas before would never know the difference. And the taxi driver would make more money that way. So I got to thinking about that, but, and I was thinking, he made a turnaround some weird place and he was slowing down. And I was like, am I going to get jumped? Am I going to get mugged? I had just gotten off a plane And so I didn't have this with me, which goes with me everywhere. And it was crazy. And so that's why I made that video that maybe some of you have already seen. If you haven't seen it, please friend me on Facebook and you'll see the link, but you can't get there, even though it is part of the on the Unfound Podcast channel right here. It's unlisted, so you need the link to watch it. So that was a crazy few days between my dad deciding he wanted to go to Pennsylvania like that, to then driving 17 hours in his Jeep. My dad's vehicle, his Jeep, is nice. The seats are horrible. The most uncomfortable seats that I've had in a vehicle in a long time. And then coming back here, the flight was fine, but in fact, the flight, it was packed except for my row. 3 seats here, nobody beside me, nobody in the middle seat, nobody in the aisle seat. But it seemed like the rest of the plane was completely packed. So I don't know. But I just really, on Friday evening, I was so happy to get home because I was thinking this might be how I die. So, and the heck of it is that my brother Brian was supposed to pick me up at the airport. And then at the last second, he told me he couldn't because he and his wife had plans. And he goes, would you mind getting a lift? And I said, no, I wouldn't. Well, after that, I said, next time you're picking me up. So that's what's been going on. And then because of everything that went on the end of last week, I was supposed to play in a disc golf tournament over in Eustis, Florida. I had to cancel. So going over there and playing those couple courses on that very cold morning a couple weeks ago before I saw my sister in Orlando, that was all for naught because I didn't end up playing in the tournament anyway. So I just had my time here in Clearwater Beach this past weekend, and I did get some work done. So that was nice. So that's what's been going on with me since you saw me last. Melissa's asking me, do you think you may have become a missing person? It crossed my mind, Melissa. I'll be honest. That's not just to be sensational or anything, but it did cross my mind. Tammy says she listens to Unfound when cooking. I love it. Carrie, was he a creepy stalker listener? I don't. Maybe, Carrie. He didn't say anything. And I wasn't wearing anything that identified me as being part of a podcast. So I don't know. But, and it wasn't like he was some young guy either. He had gray hair. So he had to be well into his 30s or something. And it was just, everything about it was bad. The car, the transmission, it sounded to me like it was shot in the vehicle. It would barely move at times. Kim says, I wondered if he was desperate for money and got signed up with Lyft, but really wasn't qualified to do it. I don't know, Kim. I gave him a bad review, so maybe he's not with Lyft anymore. Ruth, they pad the cost by taking the long way. Could be, Ruth. He definitely took me the wrong way. But in the end, what I ended up being charged was the proper cost, because I've taken Lyft from the airport home before. And the last time the guy took me directly, the quickest way you can go. And what I paid that time was about what I paid this time. So in the end, Lyft made it right. Would have been nice if they just said, just give me my entire, the entire amount back. But I'm just happy to get home. I knew that there was going to be a cost involved one way or the other. And what I ended up being charged was correct for the circumstances. I mean, for the distance and everything else. So I'm home. I'm safe. It's just a funny story now. But I have no doubt that some drivers tried to pad their, and he might have, like I said, he might have been just playing dumb. That occurs to me. What kind of Jeep does my dad have? He has a Grand Cherokee, Grand Cherokee, like a 2019. Really nice, but I'd never buy one. No way. Beautiful vehicle. Beautiful. The seats, the driver's seat driving, horrible. I can drive my Hyundai from here to Pennsylvania, have no back problems, no leg problems or anything. That Jeep just no good. It just twists your butt. I just don't know. There's like 10 different positions you have to sit in from time to time to get the kinks out. It's really weird. Delane, we need airport lockers to store our firearms in our return. That's a thought, Delane. Maybe I'll think about that next time. Kim, Concha, maybe a taxi would have been better. I'll think about that next time, Concha, for sure. I did report him, Suzanne, for sure. I did. Tammy, what do you think his motive was? I don't know, Tammy. If I knew, I would surely tell of you. It very well may be that he was scamming me. It very well may be that he really didn't know what he was doing. It really may be he was on drugs. I don't know. It may be a combination of all. But I mean, early on, I let him know that, we're not going the right way. So he knew I was a local, but he still continued to miss turns to the point where I got my own driving app out, Waze, and showed him. It was crazy. Carrie, it was the hair. He wanted to admire it longer. Carrie, don't get me started. Indy, very strange. Something was up for sure, Indy says. Elizabeth, make a complaint with Lyft. Did it. Kim, goes to show how quickly we can become a missing person. Yeah, right. Certainly true. And like I said, I was in a situation where I didn't have anything to defend myself, and it very well could have been that he pulled over to the side of the road and had a bunch of his friends, waiting. Very could have happened. And when he missed that one turn and went down the street and was turning around on the side street, I was looking around. I certainly was looking around. Ruth, all you need is insurance and a good driving record to work for Uber or Lyft. It would be very hard for me to believe this guy had a very good driving record, Ruth. Like I said, I should have known something was up in retrospect. When I saw the app, when I saw the kind of vehicle it was, and I saw he's picking me up in a 2011 Equinox. Because some of you know her, my very, 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 very close friend Shay, who visited me in 2019. I'd love for her to come back someday soon. She was a Lyft driver in California for about 6 months, and she was driving like a 2018 Accord or something, Honda Accord, that you made payments on, and you would make payments on them as you're driving it. And this guy's showing up in a 2011 Equinox. And I know with Uber that it limits you to, you can use your own car, but it can only be so old. So in retrospect, that should have tipped me off that this is weird. And I still can't figure that out, why Lyft would allow a driver with such an old car to do it, to do that. I mean, if it was a 2011 Rolls Royce, then I get it. But not a 2011 Chevy Equinox. I don't get it. Nay says, so scary. Hello, Zebra. Cherie says, you didn't listen to your first instinct. You're right, Cherie. And you're right. And I think probably because I just don't have a lot of Lyft or Uber experience. I know about them, but I've only ever used either of them once before. Now, if I'd have used Lyft 20 times and knew that people were usually picking me up in 2018, 2019 cars, then I'm sure that would have stuck out a lot more. But 2011, it was just a question mark. Why? That's weird. Now I know that there was probably something going on there. Kim, you told all of us to keep our heads on a swivel when we were in a transition place. That's right. And I had my head on a swivel, but it wasn't until I was in the car, which might have been a little too late. Shree says, I've never been in a Lyft, Uber, and only in a taxi once in my life. I've been in a few taxis. I've used Lyft twice, never used Uber. I've only been in a limo once, and that was back in 2003. Ruth says, I've used Lyft before, but they all had decent cars. See, that's my experience too. Okay, so that's enough on that. Once again, if you want to hear the entire story, want to see me diagram it and everything on a map on Google, you'd have to go to my Facebook page, scroll down, and find that post that will have the link in it. Because once again, it's unlisted on the YouTube channel. All right, let's move into some of the important items I want to cover that involve Unfound for tonight's show. First of all, a couple days ago, or maybe it was yesterday, Ashley, Bradley Brooks's girlfriend at the time of his disappearance in Corpus Christi, Texas, what they call Flower Bluff, where he disappeared. That's a disappearance we covered just within the last couple months. You heard me talk about it within the last couple weeks, and I think somebody at least posted about it, that remains were found close to where his car was found. The remains were also close to where Ashley and Brad were living at the time. It turns out that those remains are not Bradley Brooks. So these remains within, 400 feet, 500 feet, 600 feet of where his car was found, not Bradley Brooks. What Ashley told me, she did not give me the name of the person whose remains were found, but she said that they were identified as of a 56-year-old homeless man from the area. And of course, Bradley was nowhere close to 56 years old. Now, I think I also said when I first brought this up during a past live show within the last couple of weeks that, and I don't think I can go into why they knew, but Ashley was fairly confident, even from the first time I spoke to her, that she did not think it was Brad. Once again, from what she had been told about the remains, there was something that, an identifying marking for Brad that was not evident on the remains that were found. And she ended up being right. So I have to admit, at least behind the scenes, that myself, Cherie, the other assistants, kind of talking, well, it has to be Brad, right? It has to be. It has to be. I mean, that close, it has to be. Doesn't have to be. So the search for Brad continues. Now, what's unclear to me at this second, I don't know if it's ever going to come out, but we don't know how long this 56-year-old man was missing. We have no news on how long they think the remains were there, because if we end up getting told that those remains, they believe those remains were here for 3 years, well, then what it means is those remains were missed when the search was done for Bradley's remains right after he went missing. And so then that could start to come into question, how good of a search was it back in 2019 if those remains were there from, let's say, 2017 and they were missed. Because once again, they were not far away. Now, granted, they were on the south side of this plant that's there, and Bradley's car was on the north side. But my understanding is Texas EquuSearch and other people were all over that area. And so if they believe those remains were there since, let's say, once again, 2018, 2017, 2016, then I wonder why they were missed during those searches for Brad. Now, of course, if the remains are much newer, if the remains they believe that they've been there only, starting in 2020, then that's, of course, understandable that the remains were there after this search or these searches were done. So that's still a question mark in my mind. I would like to know a little bit more about how long they think the remains were there. Now, what does this overall mean for Bradley's disappearance? I think it continues on the path of believing that foul play was involved in Brad's disappearance. I think that's what it means. I think that when you find remains close to where a missing person's car was, and they aren't the remains of the missing person that's connected to the car, you can only start thinking that that ups it up maybe just a percentage point or two. It makes it at least just a little bit more likely that foul play was involved. And I've written on Patreon, I won't get into all the reasons or anything, but I wrote that I was inclined to believe that there was foul play involved. I won't get into why or who or how or anything like that. But if you're a Patreon member, patreon.com/Unfound Podcast, you can see what I wrote regarding Brad's disappearance. But I think that this does push us just a little bit closer to the idea that there was foul play involved. And in fact, even for this 56-year-old man, what if it turns out by looking at the remains, they determined that he died due to foul play? Then that would certainly increase the chances that Brad also met with foul play, but maybe his remains are not in the area. So I think even though these remains were not Brad's, I think that if we find out more information about them, when they think, how long they were there, possibly what the cause of death was, where did this guy hang out, learn a lot more about the entire situation, it may help us understand Brad's disappearance better. I think that if that information even gets out. So we just have to hope that it does. Let's see here. Okay. Cherie says I would have lost all my money on that one. Yeah. As I've said, Cherie and myself and Carrie and the other assistants, we had talked about Brad's, and when you find remains so close to a missing person's car, you can't really think anything else. It's hard to imagine anything else. And it turns out it was something else. It's just these things are just totally sometimes unpredictable. So I think some of the disappearances that we've covered that have been resolved, not surprised. Zoe Campos, Andrea Bowman, no surprise, I don't think. Esther Westenbarger, surprise. Finding Eric Franks' car still in one piece and it was in somebody's garage for 9 years, a big surprise. These remains not being Brad Brooks, that is also a surprise. Delane, Ashley said that she didn't think they were. Yeah, she said, I said that, Delane. She said that very early on. I would say that I talked to Ashley within 24 hours of the news getting out, and she was saying, I don't think they're Brad's. And she told me why. And once again, I'm not going to get into why she thought they weren't. Kim, what are the chances that within 400 yards human remains would be found? Thank goodness for DNA. I don't know what those odds are. Pretty low odds, I think. Pretty numerically. I would say it's like, I don't know, 1,000 to 1, 100,000 to 1, Kim. I don't know. But not something you would want to put any money on, probably, Kim. Sheree, that's what I was thinking too. Thank you for posting that, Sheree. Delane, I have a circumstance that I want to mention about searches missing remains. There was a case where when a young man was found after missing for months, and he had been found hanging from a tree. Funny you mentioned that, Delane, because John Polos, of course, the guest for the Julie Weflin disappearance, told me a story, not on the interview, but he told me off the air, and I don't think he'd mind me saying this. Years before Julie went missing, and if you'll remember, John was like an auxiliary police officer, an auxiliary deputy at one time, I think in the early 80s or the 70s. You should know that John, even though it didn't sound like it on the episode, he's well into his 70s. But back in the early 80s, he talked about going on a search for a missing man, and the guy was eventually found, and they figured out that at least for a time, this guy's body had been stuck in a tree. So, very interesting story that he told me. So Delane, it does happen. I don't know much, but it happens. Cherie says regarding Brad Brooks, certainly because we had not heard of anyone else missing from Flower Bluff. Certainly true, Cherie. it should be known that when this all did happen a couple weeks ago, that I did do at least the NamUs search to find anybody who vanished, who went missing in that county. But of all of them, Brad was the only one, at least listed, whose last sighting was in that Flower Bluff area. The other ones, of course, in Corpus Christi, but not there. So you just never know. Delane says he appeared to have been missed, and due to foliage and our concentration on looking down when walking, it had apparently been missed all the time. Right, Delane? Yeah. Hello, Alice. Hello to you. She puts it in capital letters. Hello, Alice, with capital letters. Right back at you. Okay, so just wanted to update you on that. The remains not Bradley Brooks, so the search continues. Next, did an Unfound Now. Really was excited to do this one. I'm hoping it's going to help Jason Landry's family maybe understand the disappearance of Jason a little bit more. It was a little longer video. I'm really trying to keep those videos short, but with Jason's, certainly helps to look at a map, given that he was traveling from point A to point B and went missing somewhere in between, and his vehicle's off the beaten path. So if you've not seen that Unfound Now yet, I posted it. I did it this past weekend. It was like 3 different videos spliced together, so I got kind of tricky with it. And you can find it right here on the Unfound Podcast Channel. So it starts out with me talking to the camera like I am here, and then I have a video, a map analysis in the middle, and then the end is me talking to the camera again. And so I hope you all check that out. If not, please do. Please give it a thumbs up as well. I have to tell you that I think I can say just to all of you watching tonight that, to me, looking at the facts, I know a lot of rumors out there, as there usually are. With the facts that we know lead me to believe that Jason, there's something was going on with him that night. I'm not saying it was of a illegal, like he was doing drugs or anything. I'm not saying that. Was he tired? Was he having some sort of mental episode? I think the facts that we know could point to that. And then I think that he was in this wreck and had some sort of head injury and walked off. Now, why hasn't he been found? Well, searches are not perfect. In fact, I was talking to the mother of a missing young man this morning. It's going to be a disappearance we're going to be covering, I think, in a couple weeks. And she was telling me, well, after my son disappeared, they went out with helicopters, with infrared and everything else, and found nothing. And I said, that's great. It's fantastic that they put in that time with that equipment is fantastic, but it's not foolproof. In fact, it's not even close to foolproof. It's just no different than polygraph tests or dogs. It's not DNA, which is irrefutable, unrefutable, not refutable, whatever word you want to use. Whereas searches, dogs, polygraph tests, other things like that are not foolproof. They're not perfect. In fact, they're far from. So with Jason Landry, I certainly appreciate, and that is not to criticize anybody who has ever been on a search, and I'm not saying they're necessarily doing bad jobs, but we just know from experience that they aren't perfect. So I think we just have to keep that in mind in Jason's situation. And we just don't know how far he could have walked off. We just don't know. He wrecked in the middle of the night, let's say at midnight. He might have had a head injury, but not something that was totally debilitating. And your average human walks 3 miles an hour. So if he was walking all night until, let's say, 6 in the morning or 7 in the morning when the sun starts to come up, that could be 20 miles away. And I'm pretty sure they didn't search 20 miles away from where his car was found. So we just have to keep those things in mind. And what I also always bring up is the disappearance and then eventually the finding of Eric Pratt, that searches were done, what everybody thought were very thorough searches, Didn't find him. What was it? 2 years later? It was in 2020 sometime. The searches happen again in the exact same area. They find him. And it was determined that he committed suicide. He had his gun with him and he shot himself. First search found nothing. Second search in the same exact area, find him. I don't know how to explain it. I wasn't there, but it happened. So with Jason, I can't help but think that it might be worth everybody's while to go back to that area and search again. All right, let's, so once again, Unfound now. Please check it out if you've not watched it yet. Let's go to some questions that were sent to me before the show started tonight. Let me see here. Alice wants to know, what character did you play on Star Trek? I was just, we did not play the characters in the TV show, Alice, The Next Generation. We were on that set. We were on that bridge, Captain Picard's bridge with like the wooden arch and the seats on both sides of the captain's chair. But we did not play characters who are in the TV series. We played made up characters that fit the storyline that we were telling for the ride. But so I didn't necessarily play a character from the TV show. We were just actors playing Star Trek officers. I think that makes sense. Okay. Kathy says, hello, Jody. Kathy says, I don't think Jason is far from his car. Kathy, I'm inclined to agree with you. I think we would just have to define what far means. But let's just put it this way. He's probably not as far as maybe people think, who are thinking that, yeah, he got picked up or something like that. Certainly true. I think in general, I agree with you, Kathy. So Jill asked me, and I think she's in here. What's my order at In-N-Out Burger? First of all, well, for people on the East Coast, I don't know if they've ever even had a chance to eat it at In-N-Out. That's more of a West Coast thing. And they did have a few in Las Vegas. And I have to tell you that it was my favorite burger spot in Las Vegas. In fact, I went there many times. And Jill, I love what they consider one of those items that you can't find on the menu. In-N-Out is known for that. I like my burger and my fries animal style, with the onions and everything. And that's the way I used to get a double with animal style. And it was really good. I can remember myself and my coworker, Mary, a job I had from like 2005 through 2009. And we would both get our orders animal style. So In-N-Out, big fan of In-N-Out. And I do kind of miss it now that I'm back on the East Coast. Five Guys. I like Five Guys. They're fine. And some other franchises that aren't found on the West Coast. But for some reason, In-N-Out has just kind of stuck with me for some reason. Alice, was the trunk of the car checked? I'm sure it was, Alice, regarding Jason Landry. I'm sure it was. Kim says, totally in love with In-N-Out. LaFord was Julia Child's favorite burger. Was it? I didn't know that. In-N-Out was Julia Child's favorite place. Well, I can't argue with that. Carrie says, I miss In-N-Out Burger. We don't have it here. Sorry to hear that, Carrie. I know the feeling. Carrie, fun fact, I was born and raised within blocks of the very first In-N-Out. The first In-N-Out was in Baldwin, California. Carrie, am I right about that? Baldwin Hills, California, I think. A little bit, not too crazy about In-N-Out. A little bit says, but Steak and Shake. I like Steak and Shake a little bit. It's good. Alice says she's never had In-N-Out. Well, Alice, I don't know where you live. None of my business. But if you ever go to the West Coast, Nevada, California, go find one. You may like it. Baldwin Park, California. Okay, Baldwin Park. Man, why do I know that? I was really close on that. I don't know. Baldwin Park, California. Okay. I was close. Don't even know why the word Baldwin just popped into my head like that. I have no idea. But Jill also had a second question that is more disappearance oriented. So that's my order. Animal style, Jill. Double animal style. And my thoughts on doing a suspected runaway case. If it's a missing person case, Jill, we don't care if it's, a runaway or whatever else. A lot of times you don't know if the person or young person is a runaway or not. The issue, though, Jill, I would say is, as I know, Jill, you've been with the program since almost the beginning, if not the beginning, that when Unfound started. You know that we have a hesitancy to cover disappearances of really young people, especially when you start calling them children. So it would depend on the circumstances, Jill, and the age of the person, the young person who ran away. But we have covered some runaways. Maybe some people might say Juanita Nelson ran away. She was a teenager. That's just one, that comes to mind. So we have covered a few like that, and I would certainly be open to covering a disappearance like that again. But I would qualify that with wanting to make sure that it's not a situation where we really, really suspect that maybe a parent caused this disappearance. And I've talked about that before. Alice says, I live in Pennsylvania. Well, yeah, no in and outs in Pennsylvania, Alice, unfortunately. But you do have Eaton Park, right? You got Eaton Park if you're in Western Pennsylvania. Maybe it might have been trivia. Maybe that's where I did get it from trivia, Cherie. Baldwin Park, California. That's where the first in and out was. Could be. Joe, of course. I was just trying to figure out if you had any. We've covered some runaway case. It was possible runaway cases, teenagers who went missing. Jill, certainly. Okay. Next item on the list. I was very happy to get a text from, was it a text or an email? I got a message from Dr. Telesco a couple days ago. And I'm very excited that we're going to be doing another show together. And it'll be January 25th. So that is not a Thursday. If you remember, in 2020, September, October, November, those were all Thursday shows. But this one is going to be on Monday, January 25th. I don't have the time written down. Maybe she did give me the time and I just didn't write it here in my notes. I'm looking off to my left. But all of you will surely know what time it will be. But once again, it is not on a Thursday. January 25th is a Monday. So that means 2.5 weeks from now, I guess. Not quite 3 weeks from now. And she herself, Grace, has already picked out the disappearance. I didn't even send her a list because in the past, that's what she's done. She will give me some criteria and I'll pick out some disappearances and send them to her and she'll pick one out. That's really how it worked for the 3 appearances in September, October, November of 2020. Whereas this one, she just stated, how about we cover this disappearance? Okay, I can do that. And as we get closer to the show date, I will let you know, of course, what disappearance it's going to be. Grace, Dr. Telesco said that it's going to be on YouTube. It'll be live, but it's also going to be a webinar. So maybe the format will be a little different than what we did for these last few shows. I don't know. As you know, I'll be prepared. But it will be live and it will be on YouTube. January 25th. I don't know the time yet. It very well may be at 7 o'clock again, like the other ones were. But if it's going to be something that's geared around one of her classes, I think there is the possibility maybe that it'll be earlier in the day. And she might have sent me the the time in the message. I just did not write it down here, and it just does not occur to me what it is. But we got a lot of time to figure that out and find that out, and I will let all of you know. Joyce says, great, Ed. I like Dr. Telesco. Me too, Joyce. Everyone should know that Joyce and I got to talk. When did we get to talk, Joyce? Was that, I think that must have been Saturday. Or no, Sunday. It was Sunday that Joyce and I got to talk for a little bit. Of course, Joyce, the mother of Peggy and Patty McDaniel, who unfortunately went missing here in Florida in 1979. Joyce and I talk once in a while, and we had a great phone conversation on Sunday. We must have been on the phone together, Joyce, for maybe 45 minutes or something. So it was great getting to talk to Joyce. And Joyce, thanks for tuning in tonight. Laura says Phyllis Corbin was a suspected runaway. That's certainly a possibility, Laura. I'm not saying that I personally believe she was a runaway, but that's a possibility. Sure, Laura. Yeah. Yep, Sunday. It was Sunday. Thank you for that, Joyce. I know we had talked, we were going to speak on Saturday, but then that didn't happen. And then you called me on Sunday, and we ended up talking for a while. So that was good. Okay. So Dr. Telesco, January 25th. It's a Monday. Put that on your calendars. And when I am sure about what the time is going to be, I will let you all know. And once again, it will be on YouTube. Right where we're talking. It will be on her or the school's YouTube channel, not on this YouTube channel. The next item I want to talk about, Robbie Hurt. We now know that the remains found, of course, near Bradley Brooks's car, not his. I've still not heard anything regarding the remains found near Robbie Hurt's truck. And what's interesting is those remains were found before Bradley's were. So not sure what's going on there. I've not talked to Robbie's mother. I should put that on the list of things to do, contact her and see what she has heard. But I have heard nothing since the news came out that remains were found in that Danville area near where his truck was. But as soon as I hear anything and I think that I can talk about it, I will do that. Let's move on to this. Another question from a listener that came in before the show got started. Tammy, and I don't know if she's in here tonight or not. Tammy, what do you think is the biggest mistake families make, innocently, of course, as they understandably don't know what to do, when a loved one goes missing? In other words, could more cases have been solved had the family known to do or not to do this one thing? It may be more than one thing. Just wanted to get your thoughts on this. So once again, what do you think is the biggest mistake families make? Well, overall, not getting very technical, they put too much faith in the police. I think that they think that, okay, I filled out the report. The police are going to go out there. They're going to be on the lookout. Yeah, we're going to put some flyers out there. We're going to call some people and everything. But mainly the police, they're going to figure this out. And that's probably the biggest mistake they make. Of course, a police report should be filed. Of course, they should give all their information to whoever's doing the report. If it does kind of feel like there might be foul play, if there's a detective that's actually involved, of course, you want to do all of that. But probably, I wouldn't say it comes up in every disappearance that we've covered on Unfound, but it certainly comes up in quite a few, is that it's obvious to me after the family did that, and yes, they went out and did some, made some flyers, maybe they got a local story done and everything, but that was about it. And they just kind of thought, well, the police will figure this out. And that is the biggest mistake families make. I think that instead, the families they have to work on it on their own. I know that, for example, being that this case is, of course, very well known among Unfound listeners, a lot of criticisms to go around regarding Tom Brown's disappearance. But here's what I know, that that his family, Penny, her husband, Tom's brother, and other people, they never sat back and just let the Hemphill County Sheriff's Office do what they were going to do. It's obvious to me that the Thomas family had the foot on the gas since day one, and I think they still do. No matter what you may think of Nathan Lewis and Pine Gregory and the sheriff's office and everything that's happened since, what we can surely say is that Tom Brown's family just did not kind of sit back and just let things transpire, whereas a lot of other families have. And I think what families have to remember is disappearances are not necessarily a crime. Maybe a crime was committed. Maybe it was a murder. I'm inclined to think that easily over majority of Unfound's disappearances are murders, just to be honest. But police do not necessarily investigate possible crimes. They cover real crimes. You just have to remember that. Unless a family can really prove that this disappearance really is foul play, then the police are generally going to default to, yeah, this man, this woman, this young person, they just walked off. Because why? Because that is most police officers' experiences. Many police officers can have an entire career. How many years? 30 years? And you can retire. It depends on the state. I know in Pennsylvania, state cop, you can be a state police officer for 20 years or 25 years and retire. So you can start when you're 23, retire when you're 48 with full benefits in Pennsylvania. I think that still exists. And many police officers can go their entire careers and never have an unsolved disappearance. They may fill out missing persons reports. All the times those people show up alive or deceased, usually very quickly. And many police officers can go their entire career and never have a disappearance that stays unsolved for even more than a week. And so families have to remember that. Ultimately, if there was foul play, it will be the police's responsibility to investigate it, go talk to some people, interrogate some people, even possibly put somebody in handcuffs. But until a crime is really proven to have happened, police will do what they can. But after a while, they'll just say, well, what do you want us to do? We don't even know if a crime's committed. And that's why it's going to be the family ultimately is going to be responsible. And so they should just choose to be responsible for day one. The police are going to do their thing. Family's going to do their thing. Of course, within the law. We don't want to go busting down doors, trespassing, threatening people, torturing people, everything. Families must do things within the law. And so that means getting together, brainstorming different ideas, including, well, if it was foul play, who was the person that was most likely wanted to have caused our loved one to disappear? But the biggest mistake, putting too much faith in the police, for sure. Tree says Lacey Buenfield is another excellent example of a family doing the most. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I went up there and it was Lacey's mother-in-law even divorced. They were divorced, and her former mother-in-law, Cindy Fox, I remember meeting her out there, and she unfolded this thing like this huge chart. Something you might see on like Criminal Minds or something, with arrows going here and there and, pieces of yarn. And I'm exaggerating, but that's what she had, and all these names and pictures and everything else. And she laid it out like on this picnic table. That's how big it was. Yeah, for sure. And that's not even Lacey's mother. It's her ex-mother-in-law. So Sheree, that's a good example too. That's surely a good example. Thank you. Delane, sure. Yes. Her ex-boyfriend's mother. Yep. That's right. Thank you for deleting. I don't know what that was about, Sheree, but thank you for deleting it. So Tammy, if you're watching tonight, or if you're going to watch this in the replay, biggest mistake, Families just putting too much in faith in the police. As I've told some families, and I unfortunately have to be this brutally honest sometimes, especially with those older disappearances. You start getting out to 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. That I just have to be honest with them. I just want you to know, police aren't doing anything. It's not that they don't like you. It's not that they don't want it solved. But they just can't figure out what to do. You can get some cold case person come in, going through the files, and there's just really nothing that, at least from their standpoint, that they can stick their teeth into. And I just tell the person, now, yes, if somebody were to walk into the police department today and say, I just want you to know that I am responsible for Jane Doe's disappearance. Here's what happened. My conscience is killing me. I've decided to turn myself in, and I will tell you everything you want to know, including where her remains are. If somebody were to go in and do that, the police would surely take all the person's information, put that person in a cell, record the conversation, videotape it, that do everything that is required. And I'm sure the police department would do it very, very well, to the point where if a trial happened to come up, that this person would be convicted of the murder. Other than that, I'm not sure how much you can expect the police department to do after 10 or 15 or 20 years. That's just the way it is. And we know, of course, that sometimes good things do happen. For example, Laura Bible and Ashley Freeman. Almost 20 years later, there is a cold case detective that comes in and discovers, oh, this insurance card. What is this? This is weird. This was lost for a while and now it's here again. Maybe that's a lead. And it was a lead. Now, we still don't have the remains of Laura and Ashley, but that certainly led to Ronnie Busick getting charged and convicted. So these things do happen, but it's rare. And in that case, a little bit of luck. So, Tammy, I think that's as complete an answer as I can give. Alice, I wish I could be an investigator. It would be awesome helping to find a missing person. Well, Ashley, I know that I enjoy doing this program. I enjoy helping these people, and I know you all enjoy listening, and I know many of you have helped out for sure. But I also know, on the other hand, that of course, we know that very few police departments have missing persons departments. Maybe the really, really, really big ones do. NYPD, LA, Chicago, Houston, Philadelphia. But most police departments do not have missing persons divisions. And so that's why if there is a report turned in, it ends up going to somebody in the vice squad or in homicide or some other sex crimes unit, and they kind of get to it and they say, well, we'll get to it when we can. But I'm sure from a police department from an investigator who is in a missing persons units division, I bet that can be a grind, because you do get so many reports that end up being nothing. It's a police report about a 17-year-old girl who ran away. You get interested in it, and you find out a couple of days later she's off with her boyfriend in Las Vegas. And I think after a while, you get so many reports that don't end up being true mysteries that I'm sure they get very jaded. It's a lot different than homicide when there's a body there and the body's not living anymore. It's a whole different thing. So I think we just have to remember that for those departments in the United States that do have true missing persons units, is that I'm sure it can be a grind, because you get so many reports that are really just people crying wolf, to put it in a certain way. So, hello, Charlotte. Good to see you, Charlotte. Joyce, any updates on the guy from Dothan, Alabama, that woman from Dothan, and she saw him? No. Rouse Chapman, Joyce, no updates. In fact, I have it on my list of things to do to call his father. I've not had a chance to talk to him. I think we exchanged some texts after the episode came out, but I've not talked to him on the phone really because of the holiday season, my father being here, but it's on my list of things to do. Joyce, I will tell you this. I think in the think tank, I don't know, Joyce, if you were part of that think tank or not when we did that, but I think we kind of came to the conclusion that the sighting of Riles in Panama City Beach was true, which maybe is a little surprising, but I think we were inclined to, usually, you know how I dismiss that kind of stuff, but it just felt a little bit more real than a lot of the other sightings that we've talked about over the years on Unfound. So, I guess there is hope there that he really did go from Dothan down to Panama City Beach. Now, where'd he go after that? Where has he been all this time? I don't know. Shree says that's a good point. Regarding the police. Yeah, I mean, if you're talking about the cry wolf part of it, Shreya, maybe. I just, as you know, I can be very, very critical of police departments regarding missing persons cases. On the other hand, I can see their point of view as well. I think that there is room in there for improvement. But I also know, and I've told this to guests as well, is that if every missing person report, how do I want to put this? If every time a missing persons report was filed, that the police automatically went to the dogs, to Texas EquuSearch, to helicopters with infrared, they did that every time a missing persons report was filed, every police department in the United States would be broke. There would be no money. Because that's how many missing persons reports are filed on a daily basis. And we have to remember, 99.9% of them are solved one way or the other. Solve some people. They're not really solved. The people just kind of appear again within a week. So, I mean, how many times, as you know, if you follow me, if you're in the group or on the page on Facebook, you know, I post every morning pretty much, except on Fridays, Saturdays. 5 days a week, I will post recent missing persons cases within the last 24 hours in the United States, sometimes in Canada. And a lot of those are solved within hours of me posting it. So this is just how the environment is. And then there's those ones that go unsolved for years. Shri says getting jaded. Yeah, for sure. For sure. You get all these reports and you look into them, and you have a mother in front of you and saying, I know my daughter would never run off to Las Vegas with her boyfriend. She would never do that. I've warned her. She would never do that. I know something bad happened to her. And then her daughter shows up the next day, and here she and her boyfriend ran off, eloped, and got married at the little Chapel of the West in Las Vegas. And yes, I'm sure after a while, you get very jaded. Tough. Sheree says, because of so many that turn out not to be mysteries. Yeah, Sheree, most jobs have some amount of burnout. Yeah. For sure. Sheree, for sure. Charlotte, there are so many people who disappear every year who are never reported missing too. That's true too. And that's, Charlotte, that I think what you're tapping into there is that's the reason that, as I've mentioned, that, you know, on NamUs, you have all these unidentified remains, and you'd think it'd be simple. You got all these missing people in one section of the website and all these unidentified remains on the other section of the website. It should be pretty easy. Just match column A with column B. How hard that can that be? And what you do is you start trying to do it. It's pretty dang hard. And I've, in a past live show and maybe even a Q&A episode that I did in 2020, I discussed why I think that is the case. And one of the reasons, as you're pointing out, Charlotte, is I think a lot of these unidentified remains are of people who were never reported missing. I also am inclined to think that a lot of the unidentified remains are not American citizens, and so that's why we have no reports as well. So it's a combination of things put together. Delane, that's so true, Sherry, even when you love your job. Delane, and not to mention the ones that never get reported is no longer missing. Sam Shepard, right. And then you have Sam Shepard's on there, Sam Sherman's. Delane, Sam Shepard was the actor, but I think I've made that mistake too, though, Delane. Yeah, Sam Sherman. And he's on there, and he's not missing. Sheree says, I love my job, but I think about quitting every morning. I'm sorry to hear that, Sheree. I think everybody knows that I love doing this program. It can be a grind at times. It can be especially frustrating when you have interviews scheduled and the people stand you up and then you never hear from them again. That happens. But my attitude continues to be that I've done so many crazy things in my life and crazy choices and bad choices and everything else, to be able to do something that I think feels right. I think I'm helping people. You feel so fortunate to be in this position. You don't even know. I mean, had you known me like 10 years ago or something like that, and I think I've always been a good guy and everything, but just failing at things and trying to do things and trying to be my own man and trying to be innovative and all of that and failing. It's that's why, when I think that when I got that little Christmas ornament that said Discmas on it, that I have, and it's right here on my desk here. That's why when I posted that on Facebook, I considered myself being one of the most fortunate people in the world, given that all this crazy, windy stuff of all these different things that I've done and not had a ton of success, until now. So, or the guest ends up in a shootout with cops, not mentioning any, that happened. We had a guest that I was hoping would be on the program, and then he ends up in the news having had a run-in with cops. Luckily, nobody got killed, but yeah, that happened. Thank you for reminding. I'm not saying I forgot about that, Sheree, but thank you for reminding me. Kim says that journey brought you here. Probably, Kim. That's one way to look at it. Thank you. Let's take another question here from another Tammy. The first Tammy was Tammy, and now we have Tami. In fact, I think this Tammy is a new Patreon member, and I'm hoping to see her in the think tank very soon. She asks, how do you select which cases you profile? I know this is going to sound very, I don't know, karmic like, Tammy, and it's not meant to sound like that. It's very is it ethereal? But we really don't pick the cases. The cases pick us. Between myself, Sheree, of course, Emily, certainly, we all we can do is contact people and see if they contact us back. And so these guests, they're selecting Unfound. We're not necessarily selecting them. We're just putting out feelers to a bunch of people. Hey, would like to talk to you about your son's disappearance. No one, you're not locked into anything or anything like that, but we just like to talk. Let's see if we can help you. And then it's the guests who choose to be on the program. But how do we go about finding those people? You name it, we do it. Facebook profiles, Facebook pages, Facebook groups, websites, news articles. News articles can be very helpful if, of course, it names somebody who's been interviewed already by some reporter. That's always helpful because it usually means that person is willing to talk again. So that's how we go about reaching out to people. But how people end up being on the program, they choose to be on the program. I say, well, I'd love to have you on the program. And they say yes. Once I get to talk to them, and I think that I have a good understanding about the disappearance, and if there's any calls that need to be made, anything I need to check into further, that's how it happens. So they they really do select us. These guests make the decision that, yep, this is something I want to do. And that's how they appear on the program. Alice says, failures are stepping stones to get you where you want to be. I've had a lot of stepping stones. Alice. A lot of stepping stones. Elizabeth, have you ever worked on a case in which you ended up suspecting the possibility of the missing being in witness protection? I think this is a possibility with Tammy Lynn Leppert. Tammy, thanks for the response. Well, there you are, Tammy. You're very welcome for the response. That's just how it worked. And I think that maybe I have an even more complete answer, Tammy. I think in the first Q&A episode that I did, I think back in 2018, if you'd like to go check that out, I think. Because I know that I've talked about that on an episode before, so it must have been on one of the Q&A episodes, but I think it was the first one. Once again, back to Elizabeth. Have we ever worked on a case in which you ended up suspecting the possibility of a missing person being in witness protection? I think this is a possibility for Tammy Lynn Leppert. Elizabeth, I just have to be honest with you. I totally reject the idea that Tammy Lynn Leppert is in witness protection. I think it's fairly obvious that the guy who admitted seeing her that day, I think there's reason to believe that they were in a relationship. I think it's a possibility that Tammy was pregnant and that he killed her. So I'm just being honest with you. But as far as the overall picture of witness protection, no. I don't believe not even one of the disappearances that we've covered is that the situation, because to get into witness protection, a certain series of things have to happen. And none of those things happen in any of the disappearances that we've covered. We have to remember that witness protection, although there are certain states that have witness protection, but it's not really the way that we understand it. I think most people's ideas of witness protection, they only know it from movies. The truth is that the witness protection program at the federal level is very, very selective. It's very, very small. Only a particular type of person gets it. And you really, really, really got to have something on a lot of people to even be considered. And that criteria does not fit anybody that we've covered on Unfound. Now, yes, we have talked about some disappearances that occurred before or after somebody was going to testify in a court case. For example, Robin Abrams just recently, she had this deposition. She was suing the Will County Sheriff's Office, and she goes missing. Well, nobody believes that she's in witness protection. Everybody believes that she was murdered. And I think that's fairly obvious. I can go back to the disappearance of Lola Catherine Fry. She had a suit that was against Dow Corning. She had breast implants and they went bad. We know about the 1980s with silicone harming women who had that kind of breast implant. And she had a lawsuit against them. And right before she was supposed to go to court or make a deposition, she disappeared. So everybody thinks, or Dr. or Dow killed her. Well, thousands and thousands of women had those breast implants and they didn't go missing. So why would it be then that Dow or this doctor or anybody else would cause her in particular to go missing? Whereas you look at Lola's case, she had a checkered history. You know, she was into drugs and things that we do know are much more likely to lead to people going missing than a court case. So I just totally, Elizabeth, I realize that that's something's out there. And I realize that there are other true crime programs that have talked about it and taken it a lot more seriously. I just don't take it seriously at all. At least for the disappearances that Unfound is covered. Now, I will tell you that there are some missing persons cases that we've covered that I believe that the people did walk out of their lives. I would never name which ones those are. That my opinion, of course. Your opinions may be different. But other than that, that's as close as I get to that, really. Once again, I just think that when people start thinking witness protection, they start thinking movies and that's just not real life. It's not. So that's my answer, Elizabeth. Charlotte, this is off topic, but does anyone have any opinions on Discovery Plus that they started online? Anybody wants to answer that, they can, Charlotte. I don't even know anything about that. Okay. Let me move on to this next part. I'm hoping in 2021 to start contacting schools again. I had some opportunities to speak to schools. At least it was scheduled in 2020, and that didn't happen for all the reasons that we now know. And we know that COVID continues to be a complication in all of our lives, especially when it comes to education. But I got to believe that before 2021 is over, unless some other virus gets loose, knock on wood, is this wood? Hope that doesn't happen. I'm certainly hoping that to be going to some schools, speaking to some criminal justice majors about missing persons cases, just what I've experienced, some of the disappearances that we've covered on the program, some of the general principles and theory regarding missing persons cases, items, themes that continue to pop up over and over and over that maybe is not obvious to police officers who are working on them now. And I am one of those people who believes that if we're going to put a dent in the missing persons problem that we have in the United States, then it has to start with education. It has to start before people become police officers and investigators, whether they're working at the local level, the county level, the city level, the state level, the federal level. You have to get to those people before then, because once you get entrenched in there, then you could become part of the system. And we know what the system is like right now. It's very hit and miss, more miss than hit. But I'm thinking if we can ingrain just some very simple theories, but true theories regarding disappearance cases, maybe that can have an effect. I'm not saying it'll have a 50% effect, but maybe a 10% effect, a 15% effect. I think that would go a long way. So that is surely going to be becoming a priority again in 2021. Although I think that we're still probably going to have to wait a few months. I know these vaccines are going out and everybody's going to see what's going on there, if they're going to work. But I have to believe that schools and higher education will get back to normal maybe this coming summer. And that would be great, because I'm really itching to do some speaking, because I have to admit, when we were doing that a year ago, and Natasha was doing a lot of it, we had a lot of people that are really open to that. From Michigan to Louisiana to right down here at the street at the St. Petersburg branch of University of South Florida. So, and of course, that's how Dr. Telesco and I now know each other, because of Natasha reaching out to Nova Southeastern University. So got to make that happen. Got to make it happen in 2021. So I hope we can. Elizabeth says, I get it. Thanks for the response. I always felt so bad about Tammy and hope she is alive. That's the hope in every disappearance, Elizabeth. The problem specifically with Tammy's is that, admittedly, this guy even admits it, he was the last person that we know to see Tammy, and the guy's not a very good guy. He has a criminal record. Had it in the 80s, had it in the 90s, had it in the 2000s, had it in the 2010s. And in fact, I think right around the time we covered her disappearance, when Anthony was on the program in 2017, I think this guy got in trouble again. So that doesn't bode well for Tammy. But maybe she did run off. But I'm just not leaning that way. I don't know if there's any facts to support that. Charlotte, okay, thanks, Jasmine. I've just been trying to decide if it will be worth it. Discovery Plus, okay. Delane, would you consider schools not in your area where you could do something like you've done with Dr. Telesco via YouTube or other? I'll consider any school, Delane. Right, absolutely. I mean, if it means going to the state of Washington or Alaska, then that's probably going to be a problem. But if it's on the East Coast, if it gets up into Alabama, Louisiana, Tennessee, Arkansas, all of that area, Texas even, then I think we can make that happen. I would like to be there in person. I think that this remote learning that we've been doing over the last 8 months, I don't even have any kids, but I hear a lot of parents talking out there that they're not a big fan of that for a variety of reasons. And forgive the pun, but maybe I'm just old school, that I want to be in front of a class and being able to take questions, and instead of just like this. I think that's a better atmosphere for learning and the better way of exchanging ideas if students, these young people, have questions. And I think it's such a lot easier in person. I gotta believe. So that's that. Let me move on to a couple news items very quickly. The psychic story that I posted in the group, where they did this study recently, testing mediums, or otherwise known as psychics, their abilities against regular people. And in this study, it seemed to show that these people who did not claim to have any special abilities actually did better than these people who say that they do have these abilities. And it had something to do, they were showed the pictures of dead people, and they had to pick out which way they thought these people died. And like I said, what they call the control group was better than the psychic group. And as I posted, this is one more reason why we don't talk about psychics on the program. We never will talk about psychics on the program and take them seriously. You're never going to hear a guest say, well, this psychic told me. That's never going to happen. Now, I will tell you that that's happened a couple times in the history of Unfound, of me doing interviews, and I just delete it. When the person even brings it up independently, I just stop it right there. And when I go back and listen to the interview again, I just delete it. And I know and I even know that somebody in the, somebody who claims to have those abilities said, well, I don't charge or anything else. It's not all about the money. The problem is this, is that, first of all, no psychics, unless they've gotten lucky, have, solved a murder or a disappearance or getting a cat out of a tree. And that's the first problem. It's not, we talk about the inaccuracy of polygraph tests. We talk about the inaccuracy of dogs. We talk about the inaccuracy of searches. Well, those things are like DNA compared to psychics. That's what the odds show. That's what the facts show. That's what the stats show. In addition, it's not necessarily about the money, because what happens is a psychic will come in, work for free, tell the family, well, I really feel that your missing loved one is by a barn near a river. Even though the psychic has no history of success. What happens? Then the family starts driving around all over the place looking for barns next to rivers, going off the word of a person who has no success in the area at all. It's a huge waste of time. Not to mention that it puts police, we're talking about police, it puts them in a very difficult position where it then is difficult to say, no, we're not listening to that psychic, because the family is desperate, which is totally sensible. Then it puts the police in a difficult position where they have to say no. Because then the family thinks, you want to find my missing loved one? You don't want to find my son? And so then the police get wrapped up in it. All going off the word of a person who has no success at all. No proven track record of finding anybody at any time. And so that's what I say to these people. We don't charge them. It's not like we're ripping them off. No, you're just wasting a lot of people's time, which may be worse. At least if they were paying $50, they'd say, okay, well, then we can choose to decide if we want to listen to it or not. So, and it's unfortunate that Kelly Jolkowski, Jason's mother, is not involved in missing persons. Of course, she shut down Project Jason a few years ago, but she had an excellent audio seminar about psychics and what she went through after Jason went missing, and her experiences with these people and everything. It's spectacular, and that's why she became so against them. And she certainly knows more about it than I do. I haven't talked to Kelly since, I don't know, early 2017 or something. But if she was not a believer in it, then that's good enough for me to not be a believer in it. She's the one that's experienced it firsthand. And I'll tell you another person, Mary Lau, she doesn't put any faith in him either. And once again, these are two women that know a heck of a lot more about that and being involved in that and experiencing that, and the emotional toll of losing a child. They know way more about that than I will ever know. So I take my knowledge from them on this, in addition to the fact that my whole entire life, I've never been a big believer either in anything, not just for missing persons cases, but for predicting sports events, games, politics, or anything else. It's just not me. So I'm not surprised then that the control group did better than the psychics on this particular test. And I'm sure there might be another test where the psychics do better, and it's maybe just odds. But those are the reasons. Those are the reasons. So I had to post that in the group, and I thought that all of you should read that. I hope you did. If you're in the group or on the page, then you saw it. If you're not in one of those places, if you're not on Facebook, no big deal. Just do a Google search for that. In fact, maybe I should have Natasha post that article on the website. There's an idea. Okay. So you can Google that. Just do Google, maybe Google psychic study, something like that. And that recent article should pop up. Carrie says, I've been remote learning for a year and a half. Not terrible, but I am an adult. Delane, I'm in North Carolina, so that'd be awesome for you to visit a school here. North Carolina is certainly in a state that I could visit. Certainly, Delane. Certainly. Okay. Okay, you're going back. Delane says, I'd like to see that video. I wonder if it's still available somewhere. It's not a video, regarding Kelly Jolkowski's. It's an audio. It was like in 8 parts. Maybe I have it somewhere. Maybe I have it in one of my computers, my older computers. Gonna have to think about that. It was really good. It's long. It's a long seminar. Delane, I'll have to see if I can find it, but this is what I think of every time. This is when I had Kelly on. She was one of the second or third interview I ever did for the program. And we talk about psychics. She told me about this seminar and everything, and I listened to all of it. And it was a very good introduction to a lot of things that I've experienced over the last 4 years with con artists and scammers and grifters and everyone else just in that seminar that she put together alone. Delane says, I always feared God would be angry with me if I went to talk to a psychic. Charlotte says, I don't believe in psychics either. I'm not going to, get into religion here or anything, but my understanding, my kindergarten level understanding of Christianity, the Bible, and everything, I think it says that you're not supposed to, believe in those types of things. One more thing also, the Holly Bobo Act has been passed. It is now, what it has done is it's raised the age of endangered children from 18 to 21. And so it's not one of those things where if a 19-year-old goes missing, that it used to be, I guess, if a 19-year-old, that young person is not considered to be an endangered child. And now it's the age is being raised to 21. I guess the thinking is that it had that law existed, then Holly Bobo, maybe there would have been a different outcome to what happened to her. I think that we all have to be a little careful with this. I think we have to be very, very careful with these types of laws and the thinking of it, because I even have an example here is you have to remember something, that you can't be giving the public alerts all the time, because at some point the public is going to start to tune them out. Alerts work because they are usually rare. And being that we just, talked about, people crying wolf regarding their disappearance of their son and daughter, insisting that their son and daughter would never run off to Vegas and would never do that. And then that's what they did. It's just an example. I'm not citing any specific disappearance or case that I know about, but I would compare this to, like, remember when we used to have the terror alert system after 9/11? And there was like green, then yellow, then orange, then red, and with red meant a terror attack seemed to be imminent. Remember all that? And it was like on TV all the time. After a while, people just tuned it out. Because why? Because it seemed like we were on a high threat level all the time. And it challenges people's attention. And after a while, then, of course, the terror alert system went away. I couldn't tell you the day that happened or even the year, but I do know that the American people started tuning that out well before it ever ended. You just get worn out. If you're telling people there's alert all the time, it's like, after a while, we get it. Okay, we get it. There's a terror alert. And so when it comes to any types of these alerts regarding missing children, endangered children, and of course we have the silver alerts for older people, it doesn't help a situation when you make it, you raise the group to 21, then 25. Well, the higher you raise the age, the more alerts you're going to have. And once again, the more alerts you have, the quicker the public is going to tune them out. And what you want is people, when there is an alert, to pay attention. Well, because the public, that's including all of us, for all sorts of different alerts that could be out there, you have to make them very selective. So we have to be very, very careful with this, that at some point you start alienating the public because there are so many alerts. The reason Amber Alerts work is because, fortunately, they are few and far between, and there's a certain criteria that needs to be met for Amber Alerts to occur. But when you start getting up to 21, a lot of 18, 19-year-old, 20-year-olds running away from home by choice. They don't want to be at home anymore. And so suddenly you start getting all of these alerts for children who may not be endangered at all. They're just really runaway teenagers who wanted to go off and do something else. So I think we have to be very, very careful with this. And the unfortunate thing is politicians are not the people who make the best decisions on this. Because once again, this type of thing, who's going to say no to it? No politician is going to say, no, I don't want to raise the age. But because they're a politician. Whereas here, I'm not running for Congress. I'm not looking for votes here. I am a specialist. I guess you could say I'm an expert in this field. And so I'm just wondering how this is all going to work out. Carrie says, that is amazing. I do hope they kept the rest of the requirements. Delane, didn't Suzanne Lyle's mother also work on a similar law in New York? She did. Suzanne's law, a little bit different than that. It does. I do not believe that law goes the whole way up to 21. I think it stops at 18, I think. Carrie, and that is why Amber Alerts have such strict requirements. I think, Carrie, the big difference is that with Amber Alerts, that, you're talking about a segment of the population that doesn't normally run away. Whereas you start getting up to 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds who kind of now understand how the world works. And maybe if they have a job, they have some money, maybe they have a car, being on Facebook and everything, they have friends in other states. It's very easy for them to just get in their car and drive away. And are we going to start issuing alerts for young people who do that? And yes, the parents may think that their child is endangered. That doesn't necessarily mean the child is really endangered. Whereas if a 10-year-old disappears, then it's most likely, something bad happened. And it's most likely by the parents, which is the stats what the stats show. But it's a much different situation between a 21-year-old going missing and a 10-year-old going missing. And that's one of the reasons we try to stay away from child disappearances on the program. So this is, I know maybe the argument I'm making here is a little counterintuitive, but I think we just have to be very careful with this. We throw too many alerts at the public for all sorts of different things. They start to tune them out. So we have to reserve any type of alert system for very specific circumstances that are truly, truly true. That's how you get the people's attention. Because it may be if you give them many alerts and nothing happens, well, it may be one of these times this is an alert they should listen to, and they tune it out because they've tuned out everything before that. So that's that. Louise says, hi, everyone. I'm sorry I'm late. Can I tell you how cute it is when people tune into the program and they say they apologize for being late? I just want to make this clear. I'm the only person that should ever apologize for being late. Okay. You people have your own lives. You have families, you have work, you have other things that are going on, everything else. Get here late, totally fine. Okay. That you're even tuning in makes me ecstatic. So I appreciate it. I'm the only person that ever has to apologize. Kim says my argument makes sense. It's just something to think about. And I think what I'm saying though here is, there is a concept in economics, forget what it's called, that, for example, back when cars didn't have seatbelts, and then, of course, seatbelts sometime in the 1960s, I think, were mandated. Of course, the seatbelts were a lot different than they are now, but they were just lap belts. But federal government mandated that seatbelts have to be in cars. And so everybody's thinking, well, driving cars is going to get safer. And they made a prediction, well, highway deaths are going to go down by this much. And when they researched that after a few years, what they discovered is highway deaths went down, but not nearly as much as they thought. Why was that? What went wrong? The cars didn't change. People didn't automatically become worse drivers. The roads were the same. The signs were the same. Then why is it that, we put this great safety device on a car, we're expecting this big drop in deaths, and it only went down this much? Why? Because people, as soon as they started putting seatbelts on, thought, well, I can drive faster because this is going to protect me in a wreck. So they start driving faster, which then makes it more likely they're going to be in a wreck. And so the death rate does not go down as much as they thought. This is a well-known economic principle. It's the same thing that when airbags were put in cars, anti-lock brakes were put in cars, lap and shoulder belts were put in cars. All it does is make people drive faster because they don't think that they can get hurt. So that's the kind of the way I feel about Amber Alerts, is that sometimes you don't get the result you predict because people's behaviors change. All right. Last question, and then we will go into this Friday's disappearance. Laura asked me, question for the group. I should have probably included this earlier. How did you discover? You're going to have some time to answer this one, but I'm going to give you some time. Laura asked, question for all of you, not a question for me, but for all of you. How did you discover Unfound? What disappearance brought you to Unfound? All right, so we got a nice showing of people here tonight on this Wednesday night. If you could take some time, go back to the first time that you heard about Unfound, you listened to Unfound. What was the first episode that you listened to? How did you find out about Unfound? That's going to be very interesting for people to see. I want to see all of your answers. I realize a lot of people just watch and don't comment, and that's totally fine. But if you're watching tonight and haven't written anything, maybe you want to consider answering this question, because I'm very interested to hear this. Once again, question for all of you. How did you discover Unfound? What was the first episode you listened to? All right. As you're writing out your answers, and I will read them when I'm done talking about this Friday's case. This Friday, Disappearance was going to be last Friday's episode, but because of things that happened last week with my dad deciding he wanted to go back to Pennsylvania, kind of threw a wrench into the plans. And I decided to push it to this week. And I thought playing Jennifer Wilkerson's old episode, my interview with Vicky, was fitting, being that Vicky passed away recently. And it also gave me a chance to talk to the think tank about Jennifer's case and tell them about all these things that have gone on over the past few years. Unfortunately, a lot of those things I cannot talk about publicly. But this Friday is going to be the disappearance of Thomas Charles Murray Jr., nicknamed TJ, Tom Jr. He disappeared from Spring, Texas on October 19th, 2011. And the interview is going to be with his father, Tom. And the title of the episode is Duality of a Man. Because we have a situation in this disappearance where TJ was known as a very nice guy, good guy, liked to work with kids, was a little league umpire, had a brother that was like 10 years younger than he was a good mentor to him, liked to take him out and play sports with him. But on the other hand, on the night of his disappearance, he slapped a woman for seemingly no reason and got in trouble for it and got kicked out of a bar. So we have this very nice guy, but on the other hand, he slapped this woman for no reason. And then there is a video of that night inside this Rookies or bar called Rookies. There's a video showing TJ going outside by himself, and then him walking in a southerly direction from Rookies, never to be seen again. Now, what I think you're going to probably find most interesting about this disappearance, besides the facts, and there are many, is that I got a lot of coverage for this disappearance. I was very fortunate to be able to talk to his friend Jeff, who was with him that night. that this all happened. And I got to talk about what he remembered. In fact, I got to talk to him twice. And so after my interview with Tom, I will detail my conversation with Tom or with Jeff. Also, I was able to track down the woman TJ slapped. And I got to talk to her. I only talked to her once, about 15, 20 minutes. She recounted that night the way she remembered it. We do not use her real name in the episode because she is a victim in this. She was slapped. And I guess it is possible, had TJ not disappeared, that she might have filed charges against him for assault or something like that. So she is a victim, so we do not use her real name. In addition, and this was not necessarily planned, but it happened, the current detective on TJ's disappearance here 9 years later called me. I'm not saying that's a first, but it's almost a first. So I got to talk to the current investigator, cold case investigator on TJ's disappearance. His name is Detective Fadi Rizk, Fadi, and then last name Rizk. And I think it's very important that maybe possibly before you listen to the episode on Friday, that you watch, or I guess listen to the interview that Detective Rizk did last year, just in 2020. So very recently, regarding TJ's disappearance. It's on YouTube. If you do a search for TJ Murray, you will find it. I've linked to it on Facebook in both the group and the page a couple times, as a matter of fact. And I think that you need to listen to that and really listen to it very closely. So he called me. We talked, told him what Jeff and this young woman said to me. And then of all things, he called me today. So we had another conversation, which was nice. And so we have a lot of coverage. I don't know if it's the most coverage we've ever had for a disappearance, maybe up there. It's certainly in the top 5 where you get to hear from TJ's father. I've also talked to TJ's mother off the record. Got to talk to his friend who was with TJ that night. I got to talk to the woman that TJ slapped, and I got to talk to the investigator currently working on TJ's disappearance. So I was very excited about all of that. I wish we could do more of that. Usually there's just not enough time, but this kind of came together very quickly within a few days, where I talked to Jeff, and then 2 days later, I talked to this young woman, and then a day later, the detective on the case called me. And then I talked to Jeff again on December 29th. And then Detective Rizk called me today. So, and you'll hear about all of it. None of it was off the record. I never told any of these people that our discussions would be off the record, but Jeff recounted what he remembered about that night, what he remembered seeing and thinking. This young woman talked to me about what happened that night. And frankly, she talked about what it's been like, because a lot of people have suspected her in TJ's disappearance. She told me about how it's been very difficult on her. And then with Detective Rizk, you can imagine he didn't tell me much, but I will detail what I told him. And I will talk about what I got out of the interview that he did last year. So once again, this Friday, the disappearance of Thomas Charles Murray Jr., TJ, Spring, Texas. The title of the episode is Duality of a Man. What that means is that we as humans have the ability to be opposites. We can be both lazy and very energetic, kind and rude, violent and passive, very loud, very quiet, the duality of man. And that's a line that comes from the movie Full Metal Jacket. And the reason I use that is, once again, because TJ was known as being this very nice kid, young kid, helping a lot of people out, working with young people, officiating young people's sports and everything. And then on the other hand, he's slapping this woman in a bar. Duality. How do you square that? The TJ that's the little league umpire with the TJ that's slapping a woman. And this happened on October 19th, 2011. The interview is with his father. The official interview that's recorded is with his father, Tom. But like I said, I got to talk to a lot of other people. And it's a tough one. I'm going to tell you right now, tough disappearance. Going to be interesting to see what you all decide happened. All right, let's see everybody's answers now to the question of how did you all discover Unfound? Kathy says Stephen Kocher followed his case since 2011. Tammy says Brandy Wells. Kim says searched for true crime podcasts on iTunes and it popped up. Well, that's nice. Carrie says Angie Yarnell. That makes sense, Angie. Carrie, being that you live in that area, and I remember you going down there and filming that. That was spectacular. Thank you. Karen says Susie Lyle. It was a YouTube recommendation. Well, that's fantastic. Jasmine says Regina Marie Boss. Jasmine, that's interesting. So when the episode originally came out in late 2016, or was that sometime later? Cherie says Kristen Modafferi. I don't think I knew that, Cherie. I knew that you started listening not long. You really helped out on the Amanda Fravel episode. I did not know that it was Kristen Modafferi, though. It was the first one. Okay. Elizabeth, MH370 was blown away with that episode. Me too. Me too, Elizabeth. Jeff Wise was a spectacular guest. He is still, in my opinion, the foremost authority on the disappearance. And even though a lot of people dismiss him as a conspiracy theorist regarding MH370, he's still the only person who's been right. From the day one, he said, that jet's not going to be found in the southern Indian Ocean. He's right. Great interview. And I haven't talked to Jeff recently. I hope he's doing well. Kim says, I don't remember the first one. That's fine, Kim. Tammy says Tom Brown. A little bit says Tom Brown. Tom Brown certainly did bring a lot of people to the program. It's still interesting how that all happened. Elizabeth, Modafferi was also an excellent episode. Such a sad and strange case. Yeah. Dennis Mann. I haven't talked to Dennis in a while either. See how he's doing. Yeah, Dennis, I thought did a great job on that episode as an interview. He was also the interview for Disappearance we covered in North Carolina. Charlotte, I was listening to a different podcast. Well, shame on you, Charlotte. Looked up true crime disappearances, found Unfound. The first one I remember was the one where the guy was at a golf course, never came home. He was a writer. Yeah, that's Gregory Howell, Charlotte. So you're relatively new. That's a relatively new case from 2020. Okay, Charlotte. Yeah, that's Gregory Howells. His wife was the guest. Certainly a unique disappearance. Louise, found it by accident, but I've listened to Ed on other cases, but it wasn't Unfound. I first heard of your show about the missing plane MH370. It was so interesting. I've listened ever since. I have to say, I think that Flight 370 did bring a lot of people to the program, but it's weird. I can remember to this day that Flight 370 among the listeners that we had in Unfound in 2017 was not a very popular episode. I can remember like the downloads, just knowing it, once again, I don't really check downloads, but it's on the page that I have to go to on Podomatic to upload episodes. So I see them anyway. I just remember downloads for that episode were not very high at all compared to the episodes before that. But as soon as that got put on YouTube, it was like 100,000 views in no time. And I think it really did bring a lot of people to the program. Of course, it helps. Flight 370 is like an international story, and it's still a mystery, really confounding. So I think that some people have said Flight 370. That shouldn't probably surprise me. Even though, like I said, for those really hardcore Unfound listeners at the time, weren't so much into that. Laura, mine was Leah Peebles. Leah, yes, Leah. Right. New Mexico. I had followed her case on Disappeared. Yes, she was on there, and searched her name on YouTube to see if there was any other shows on her case. I was actually in the airport, and a flight was delayed. Well, I'm lucky the flight was delayed. You got to listen to Unfound, Laura. Yeah. Delane, my son-in-law turned me on to podcasts, although we listened to very different podcasts, and I listened to quite a few true crime podcasts, but kept searching for one that just grabbed hold of me. Well, I'm glad I grabbed hold of you, Delane. Ruth, you were in my recommended feed as I follow a lot of true crime channels because my best friend from childhood was murdered. Wow, Ruth. I don't remember the first case. Okay, that's fine, Ruth. Laura, then after that, day after I listened to Kimberly Raymer, from Opp, Alabama. Daniel Bell up in the Panhandle as well as Juanita Nelson out in California while waiting for my flight. Was hooked after that. Well, I'm glad to hear that, Laura. Thank you. Yeah, Laura was the one that wanted this question answered. Yes, thanks for everyone answering. Yes, she's the one that gave me the question. Delane, this one and binged for hours to get caught up to the current episode. Yeah, anybody who's going to binge Unfound episodes is going to be there a while. Of course, there are 227 episodes total. If you count in the update episodes, the anniversary episodes, the Q&A episodes, it adds up to like 227. And the average length of an episode is like over 2 hours. That's a lot of listening. Joyce, heard about you from Mary Lau. That's true, Royce. The first podcast, let me see here. First podcast was mine with you, and second case was the daughter on Mary's Susan. Yeah. Joyce, I want you to know something. I remember where I was sitting, what I was doing when Mary and I talked about your daughters the first time. Of course, I still lived in Madeira Beach, and I was sitting in my leather chair, my grandfather's leather chair that I still have. And I was sitting there at my computer working on an episode, and Mary called me and told me about you and your daughters. I remember it like it was yesterday. And I can remember saying, she lost 2 daughters? What? And there was a murder connected to the disappearance? Really? And I remember thinking, how have I never heard of this? And Joyce, one of the joys of doing this program has been, to really, everybody now knows about the McDaniel sisters missing. Whereas I think back in 2017, I'm not sure how many knew. Whereas now a lot of people know. And of course, it's not just been there's been a listener who really got involved back in 2017, and we have to thank her as well. But Joyce, I remember Mary talking about you like it was yesterday. Louise, Delane said, yes, they said his body had been there for many weeks, but contractors working in the same place said the body wasn't there. Experts think suicide. I'm not sure. Okay. Helen says Tyler Stice. Yeah. Jessica Curtis. I feel very bad about Jessica. Right. Tyler Stice. Jasmine, early 2017 when I caught the video. All right. So Regina Marie Boss. So Regina's episode had been maybe out for maybe 2 months or something. Okay, Jasmine. Cherie says a lot of people here from YouTube. I'm noticing that, Cherie. Delane, I can't remember what episode you featured when I had finally caught up to you. Louise, if TJ hit a woman in a bar, could a man from the bar have interviewed and hit him or the woman's husband or boyfriend hit him and kill? Louise, I would suggest we just wait till the episode comes out and then you can make a decision for yourself, because there's a lot of facts that have to be mixed in there. Yeah, this, Laura, I think this is a great question that you're having everybody answer tonight. I'm finding this very interesting. Louise, it was Disappeared. I first found you. I listened to the show for a long time and then found Unfound and recognized your name and voice. My voice. Kim, some of us could go as your makeup ladies on the speeches at schools. I don't think I do makeup, Kim. I'm not going to do that. Even when I was a performer at Star Trek, we didn't do makeup. Some of the people who played aliens had makeup, but I never did any of that. Don't really do makeup. I don't. But I will tell you this. That should we set up some of these speaking events at schools in 2021? Then of course, if any of you live in the area, you're more than welcome. I don't know what the school rules are or anything, so you're going to have to figure that out yourself. But certainly, if you'd want to come and see me speak to a class or something, that'd be great by me. But once again, I don't know what school's rules are. I'm sure it varies from school to school, but that would certainly be spectacular. So thank you for answering that. So yes, it does seem we got a lot of people from YouTube, Flight 370, Tom Brown. Okay. I hope people will continue to. I hope some people who watch this later maybe will put in their answers as well. But that's all I got. Been here 2 hours. Man, the time goes so fast. So fast. I just don't know. I don't know where the time goes, ladies and gentlemen. Just don't know. But that's all I got. One more thing. Did you see my picture that I took that I put on Facebook? You know, we have Elf on the Shelf. So I took a picture of myself sitting on my bed. I got a lot of comments about the Iron Maiden bedspread. And it was like, you know, well, no woman's going to, well, you know, I do my interior design for me. You know, and I really don't like to talk about that particular part of my life anyway, the private part. So we'll just leave it at that. But I did get some comments that were a little funny and everything. But yes, I do have an Iron Maiden bedspread. And in fact, there's a bed right here. This is the bed right beside me right here where my dad slept while he was here. And I'm going to be getting, I think, a Def Leppard bedspread for this one. So that's just how we have this placed out. I have a lot of rock and roll heavy metal posters that I've framed. Ozzy Osbourne, Kiss, Def Leppard, Iron Maiden, Judas Priest, AC/DC, Rolling Stones, Megadeth. That's kind of how I have interior decorated my place. I also have a couple video games out there that you can put together that you can get at Walmart. I have Pac-Man and Street Fighter 2. Yes, this is certainly a bachelor pad, but this is where, not just where I live, but this is where I work too. So I need a particular type of vibe here, and a vibe that surrounds me with, you know, music that I like and performers that I like. I think helps me work better. So it is certainly a bachelor pad, but it's a bachelor pad for both work and play. All right. So that's it. What do we do tonight? Shout out to Peter. I see you, Peter. First show 2021. Beautiful here. Flight here on Spirit Airlines. I think they did a great job. And then my Lyft trip, which was from hell. Remains were not Brad Brooks. Unfound Now, Jason Landry, Dr. Telesco, January 25th. Still no news on the remains found near Robbie Hurt's truck. Talked about starting to contact schools again. Talked about psychics. Talked about the Holly Bobo Act. Told you about this episode this Friday, Thomas Charles Murray Jr. And I've already done the interview for next Friday's episode, which is nice. Did it yesterday. And then took some spectacular questions tonight. Thank you all. Thank you all for making time. Thank you for the great questions, comments. Always love seeing all of you. We had a great showing tonight for the first show of the year. I hope that 2021, you can reach all of your dreams and goals. And I hope that this world can get back to normal this year. Let me see what some people were saying before we go. Yeah, okay. Delane says, I love the bedspread. Nothing wrong with that. Laura, thanks, guys. I thought, yeah, it was a good question. 80s bands rule. Ruth says, I agree. You need a lifestyle Eddie in the corner. I don't know if I know what that means. Lori's. Joyce, yes, I'm still seeing you sitting on your bedspread. You remind me of my 50-year-old son, Curtis. Oh, that's nice, Joyce. Hey, we have a 3-foot porcelain Gene Simmons doll. That is spectacular, Delane. I love hearing that. Take a picture of it and send it to me. I want to see it. Yeah, everybody's saying goodnight. All right. You need a rock chick to keep you warm, not Angela Lansbury. There you go, Louise. Good one. All right. Good night, everyone. Thank you so much. Happy New Year to all of you. Good night.